Man, who doesn't love mock scrapes? I don't know if you've checked out my mock scrape playlist. I have about 20 videos on mock scrapes there, but there's a lot of mock scrape concepts that I originated years ago, back in the 2000s, early 2000s, and it's evolved. And what's cool about mock scrapes is, as I travel the countryside, look at all these properties, I get to see tons of mock scrapes. I get to see all kinds of mock rubs, mock scrapes, and I get to see and talk and analyze, just like the food plots and everything else, what's actually working and what's not. So the mock scrapes that I talk about, they by far work the best that I've seen anywhere in the country. And the hanging vine, and a lot of the hanging vines that you see in my videos, and that type of mock scrape, whether it's a hanging vine, because those are plentiful in this area, or up north you can use a jack pine branch, white oak, aspen, whatever the deer is rubbing on the most in your area, that makes a great licking branch to hang. We won't go into too much detail on that because I have so many videos covering how to create a mock scrape, why to create a mock scrape. Look up mock vine scrapes. There's all kinds of information on mock scrapes and how to do it. But I can say 4 to 5 feet long, maybe even 6 feet long, 3/4 inch to 1 inch in diameter. You want enough weight for deer to rub their preorbital glands, and it's very important that you use those dimensions. You want the vine free swinging, meaning you have at least a couple inches of rope, an inch of rope, or 2 feet, 3 feet. You're hanging it from a branch above. You want that vine or that branch to be hanging waist level to belly high for us, so fawns can participate in the mock scrape. You'll see fawn does, fawn bucks. They go right to that mock scrape, and it all leads to point number one. And I'm looking at, what do you do in the off season to maintain your scrapes? And it's pretty cool right now, and we're going to show you a film strip basically of bucks coming through and does and fawns hitting a particular mock scrape during the winter time. And these are just with the cell cameras from Exodus, the render that we use. They've been, actually those renders, which are pretty cool. I had a solar panel on them since September, and they're still running. And so they keep going, the battery indicators there, it's pretty cool. They're still running. That was with 8 AA lithium batteries, and so we'll show you some of that. We've been able to see when the first bucks have dropped their antlers all the way to this day, and they're still working. And along with that, these maintenance tips that I have right here for mock scrapes, stay around for number 6 right here because it is an important one. But number 1, like I was talking about, they need to rub their preorbital glands on something, because you want to collect that preorbital gland scent. You know, and there's things out there for using a ribbon, for using man-made material. Don't use any of that stuff. Use something natural in your area. Make it look natural in your area. I don't like I see some people's lines are holding about as high as my head right here, and they have all these licking branches hanging down. Don't do that. Buck can get wrapped up. A lot of times they stand up. They'll get their antlers trapped in that cord, and then you see a buck running around with a bunch of cord on its antlers, let alone I see people using cable at that height, steel cable, which is just ridiculous. That's a good way to kill a buck, and hang a buck there and let him get caught up, which would be just terrible. But the whole reason you're putting that branch there is so you can collect the preorbital gland scent, collect the good stuff. People say, what's the best scent for mock scrapes? I have an answer for that, and I have videos. I have videos that is just that. What is the best scent for mock scrapes? And you're going to find the best scent is natural scent. You want the accumulation of 3 dozen deer that go by there and leave that scent on that branch, on that licking branch. You want that there. You want it from fawns, bucks, does, young bucks, old bucks. You want every deer that goes through, and you want that on that trail so that you collect the most scent. The more natural scent you collect on that branch over time, the more they hit it every single day, to the point that they're still hitting it right now in March. They're not actually completing the scraping activity. They're going by and they're rubbing their glands on. Almost every deer that walks by rubs their preorbital glands on that branch, even to this day. It's not just something in the rut. It greatly helps you define deer movement as they're going by, so you need to collect the good stuff. Make sure that your branch is hanging low enough for fawns so they can participate. Make sure it's in the middle of the trail. Make sure it's in a flat spot, and we'll talk about some of that stuff, but make sure you're really focusing on the accumulation of that gland scent, and really collecting that good stuff that helps define that movement right in front of a tree stand. Number 2, of course, replace if needed. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times, and this goes back to, if you are just tying them directly to a branch, or directly to a cable, or directly to a rope, without letting it free swing there. And you can see some of our pictures, the rope will go out, it'll come back and hit the deer in the face, and they flinch a little bit. You want that. You want it to appear natural. And when it's stiff and it's hanging down, like if you tied that licking branch to an actual branch up above, then what I find is they break at a much higher rate, several times more. We have licking branches that have been whittled down. One of them has been in the woods since 2014. And it's been there literally since the summertime, being used immediately and being used consistently. It's still there. It's a smaller stub. The branch is lowered, which has helped, but it's been around for a long time. And if you tie them directly to a branch, you're going to find they break. If they're starting to break and they're getting into that waist high to head high, the deer might still be using it, but a great time now or going into the summer to replace it with a fresh stick, a fresh vine. I like using vines because they're extremely natural. They're one of the most consistently natural vines that I see in the woods that deer use all the time. Some of the best natural scrapes I see when I'm traveling the country are those vine scrapes that are natural in the woods. But vines are great because they have a little bit of a flex to them and they last for a long time. A jack pine branch lasts a long time. Very stretchy. Compared to a white pine branch, it'll just snap right in half. Scotch pine, even red pine. Red pine is stretchy, but it has a lot of resin in it, and the deer don't seem to rub red pines very often compared to jack pines up north. Aspen, a little bit lighter wood. It'll dry out sooner. You might get a couple years out of it. Bottom line though, make sure it's not cracky when you're turning it, when you're grabbing it and holding it. If it's starting to whittle away, just replace it with a fresh one. You could replace it right now, whether it's March, April, going into May. It should be good all season. And again, you're looking to collect as much scent as possible all the way out throughout the season. So really take a good look at it. If it's starting to shrink, make sure you add a new one right now, get it down to that waist height. Maybe even try another material. Try a white oak instead of an aspen or whatever you have in your area, jack pine. If you don't have the vines, it'll still work. Number 3, the height. You have to focus on that height. It is so critical. You have to make sure that those fawns can participate in rubbing. There's so many fawns that go through there and does. It's all preorbital gland scent. I'm not sure, but I really don't think that a mature buck goes by and thinks, oh, that's a 3-month-old fawn or that's an 8-month-old fawn. I don't think that's the way it works. I think they just know that it's a female, maybe to that extent. Another deer, it's another scent. The more scent you can get on there, the better. So really make sure you maintain that waist to belly high height and replace as needed. Number 4, clear the brush around, and this is really important. I see too many mock scrapes where they're just sticking out 2 feet from a tree, and there's not enough room for that buck to spin all the way around, for that deer to spin all the way around. And typically, if they're only 2 feet from some brush or a tree, they're not directly in the center of the trail that the deer are moving through. I want the licking branch to hang down right in the center of the trail, and I want a deer to be able to free spin all the way around it if at all possible. You want to make sure that the deer can hit it from any angle, and then I feel they play around with it a lot more. That's a lot of times I like taking 2 saplings that are 20 feet apart. They're 20 feet high. You tie them together at 7 to 8 feet high, and then you hang it down from there. You can put a rope across. Most rope, I'll give you an example of height. I'm 5'9". If I'm standing on the rail of my pickup and I'm tying a rope, it's at chest high. And that's about that perfect height where you're tying a rope between 2 trees. Those trees should be at least 10 feet apart, maybe 12 feet, doesn't really matter. I often like, if there's a branch, even if that branch is 14 feet up, I like putting that rope through that branch. Kind of imagine if that buck is playing with that scrape down below, he hears that branch moving up there. It's extremely natural. You're putting that rope out of that buck's, where it ties, definitely well above where that buck is going to reach if he stands on his hind legs, and making sure that you're making that scrape last as long as possible. But definitely make sure it's cleaned out all the way around, like a big saucer around a water hole too. It's the same thing. You want those deer to feel like they can spin around from most angles and get into that mock scrape and use it and participate. Because again, this all goes back to collecting as much scent as possible. 5, if you have weeds growing in the actual scrape portion of your mock scrape, really take the time to dig them out. I like using a garden rake, getting it right down towards dirt. I'm pulling vegetation out, pulling small trees, brush, whatever it might be, weeds, getting in that out of there, and I'm making a saucer that's 3 to 4 feet in diameter. It actually lowers a little bit in the center, perfectly flat ground, and it's flat. You might saucer it out a little bit, but it's a pretty big area. You're cleaning it right down to the dirt. And it's pretty crazy. If I went out and did that to most of my mock scrapes right now, I'd even increase the use. They love that fresh earth scent, and so it might be that you're doing that in April, early April, when the ground is soft. Really, mock scrape month is the end of June and especially early July. That's when we're really putting new mock scrapes out. We're hitting our old ones again, and we're checking number 6, which is really important. If you're putting a mock scrape up anywhere, make sure that not only do you have a tree stand by it, you don't want just random scrapes, that you have a trail cam location by it. A lot of the clips of the Exodus render camera that's sending us self pictures on a daily basis, they actually they send it to us within 20 to 30 seconds when it takes a picture. They're right in front of a tree stand, and we not only have the Exodus render cell camera on it, we have an Exodus Lift 2 HD video for 15 to 20 seconds right on that same mock scrape, so that we can get both of them at the same time, because I love the HD footage. It gives us a lot of view. It gives us a really good view into where the bucks are coming from, the ultimate behavior, following other bucks. When we have bucks going through, I want to get all of them. And although the Exodus render gives us 5 clean shots within 4 seconds or somewhere around there, 3 seconds, I really like the HD video on there too. So that's why sometimes you'll see they're blackout, low glow cameras, but an infrared is picking up light from anywhere else. So sometimes you'll see a glowing light in the background in some of my trail cam photos, and it's amazing how they can pick out that light out of a camera, even though it's low glow, and make it look like a spotlight on the deer. The deer don't notice. We're having some cool ones coming through where it's casting a shadow in the snow, even though it's kind of like spooky pictures that are coming through. That's number 6. Make sure you have a camera location nearby, or I'd actually remove the scrape and move it somewhere else. Make sure you have a tree stand location by. There is an exception sometimes in a big food plot system. I might have a hanging scrape where I want to collect that maybe once a month, maybe once every 6 to 8 weeks, when I can get in there in bad weather and change that card. We have it on full HD video, so we can learn a lot of behavior, get a collection of bucks on that over a long period of time, and we're just not going in there that often. But think about every mock scrape that the bucks are really keen on your property. You could be potentially pulling them away from another mock scrape that might be in front of a tree stand, and that certainly goes for water holes. Water holes, if you have a water hole in a food plot, they're already going to the food plot. You don't need that additional attraction. Put the water hole off to the side in another stand location that you can get in and out without spooking deer, and you'll make sure that you can define that movement. These are 6 mock scrape off-season maintenance tips and use tips. I really hope you guys, this isn't some kind of fad or gimmick. You can see this for years. I don't even know how many hours of footage we have in all our videos from bucks hitting mock scrapes, our mock scrapes, on multiple properties. Our new property last year that we started in August, we put mock scrapes out immediately. We got tons of footage of big bucks coming in, hitting them immediately after we put them out, because we're following these steps. We're following these practices that I've learned for 15 to 18 years. They've narrowed it down to this is what works best with mock scrapes. I don't think anyone could argue with that if they look at the, Dylan, do you think we have thousands of hours of, probably thousands of hours of footage that we've collected in 4 terabyte hard drives? We're on our 3rd or 4th one, and I would say a huge percentage of that is that we've kept as 50%, or it's a giant percentage of our B-roll footage are from bucks hitting the mock scrapes on different properties, different mock scrape. There's no magic potion, there's no magic bean we're using, there's nothing. It's just simply following these practices. These are some off-season practices that you can follow, and I can't wait to hear about mock scrapes, because I know they've changed a lot of hunters' trail cam use and strategy throughout the last several years that we've been writing and putting videos out for them. I wanted to change it for you too, and if you follow these exact practices, you will be highly successful with your mock scrapes in 2020.